Thank you very much. Now, our last speaker will open the Q&A session, so please do not go anywhere, yeah? I still remember you have the first question. Thank you very much. Yes, you're not going anywhere. I hold you to that. Now, David Meyers is the Executive Director at the Conservation Finance Alliance, and he has spent over a decade in Madagascar. Now, when he was in Madagascar, he helped the country plan and execute a tripling of the area under conservation, including establishing the Makira Natural Park, that's 370,000 hectare protected area using reduced emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, that's REDD financing. He will be sharing that it's more than the money. So what is a sustainable financial solution for natural landscapes? Please help me welcome David Meyers on stage.
Thank you. Hello, thanks everyone. Is that working? Can you hear me? Great. Last talk here at the end of a long day, but I'll try to move forward pretty quickly. In addition to being the executive director of the Conservation Finance Alliance, which is a professional association for conservation finance practitioners and experts globally, for the last 4.5 years, I've been working as a senior technical advisor for the Biodiversity Finance Initiative, which is a United Nations Development Program global project. We've been working in 35 countries globally, and it's a national level project that looks at the context for conservation finance, for financing for nature in the country. It explores what the financing needs are and what the current expenditures are, and then it comes up with what's called a biodiversity finance plan. And the finance plan looks to try to identify opportunities for finance at the country level, and usually results in a mix of opportunities to scale up existing solutions, but also to identify new opportunities to improve the way nature is financed in the country. And although it's a national level plan, it's been used at smaller level scales in different countries, in India and other countries, and it could be really useful at the landscape level. And so I just wanted to give a bit of an overview. Oh, also the methodology itself can be, we just released a new version at the CBD COP, and you can download that methodology online at the website. So what have we learned over the course of the last 4 or 5 years with BIOFIN? One observation is that numbers get you to the table. We do this analysis of what the finance needs are and what the current expenditures are, economic values, analysis of subsidies, revenues, and jobs that are created by nature. And we find that the ministries that are responsible for budgets and for fiscal policy, like ministries of finance or economy, respond really well to these numbers. You know, it gets you a seat not only with the ministries, but also with businesses. Businesses need numbers to think through challenges and opportunities. So, and the other thing is that just getting the ministries of finance to sit down with ministries of environment and agriculture results in amazing communications and changes. So a lot of it has to do with, you know, breaking down those silos. For example, Kazakhstan was able to enact some new laws that codified ecosystem services and biodiversity offsets that enabled the financing of a whole range of protected areas. And the Philippines as well has advanced legislation that resulted in the financing for a whole range of new protected areas. Also, they're looking into getting access to some oil and gas funds to help finance biodiversity. A lot of money was just sitting there in these funds, and they figured out this is a great opportunity. A second observation is that biodiversity or landscape finance is about more than just the money. Okay, so we know that to achieve sustainability and conservation and sustainable landscape, we need to put a lot more money into it, okay? No one's going to argue that that's not the case. But in fact, maintaining these ecosystems can be extremely low cost. It all depends on the human pressure on those systems, right? So, like how much does it cost to restore a forest that we didn't cut down? Not much, right? It's there. So how can we understand the cost drivers and address those cost drivers to reduce those pressures. There was a study by the New York Declaration of Forests. I don't know if most of you know it, but they looked at the amount of money that's going into forest protection, and then the amount of money going into activities that are contributing to forest destruction, like agriculture, for example. And it was 40 to 1. 40 times more money is going towards activities that cause negative impacts on forests than forests. So even if we double the amount of money that protect forests, we're still at 20 to 1, right? So how can we address these issues? Well, BIOFIN and UNDP, we came up with what we call finance solutions, and it's not just money, but we look at 4 different outcomes of these finance solutions. So avoiding future expenditures, delivering better, generating revenues, and realigning expenditures. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about each one of these, starting with avoiding future expenditures. Basically, avoiding future expenditures is defined as these are measures that can prevent or reduce the need to undertake future investment. Classic example is alien invasive species. These species can cause enormous economic harm to places, and if you spend money now, a little bit of money to stop them from getting a foothold, stop them from getting in, you can save millions and millions of dollars in the future. That's just an example. Others like improving your environmental impact assessment procedures and helping governments enforce them can result in huge avoidance of destruction. Watershed maintenance, maintaining the waters now. Huge amount of money are going into bringing water into cities and areas, but very little is being put into maintaining those watersheds. This is a huge way to save money in the future. The second one is delivering better. So what does that mean? It's about cost effectiveness and efficiency in budget execution, synergies, aligning incentives, and a more favorable, favoring a more equitable distribution of resources. So this is, in a large part, can be supported by keeping revenues local. For example, water use fees. If they go back to the local managers or protected area fees, they have much more incentive to maintain the services. You can also do public-private partnerships. Outsourcing services to private entities results in often great economies and improvement of the quality of service. Performance-based payments, for example, the environmental equivalent of social impact bonds can help transfer risks from governments to the private sector and compensate the private sector for taking those risks. Okay, the third one is generating revenues. This is sort of the classic one. This is what we all think about when we think financing landscapes. And these can be based on user pays or polluter pays principles, in which is a great way to provide co-benefits. For example, with the user pays system, you can align incentives, increase awareness of the value of sustainable natural resource use, for example, tourism fees or water users. Fees can also be set to regulate the level of use. So if you can play with the supply and demand curves and control the use of water, use of different areas by setting the fees. And polluter pays principle obviously can reduce pollution in different areas, especially if you set the prices and enforce them. And then finally, realigning expenditures. These are measures to reorient existing financial flows towards improved management. This is the most important probably and the most underutilized. The classic example here is realigning subsidies. Subsidies come in many forms. It can be as simple as road construction through a forest, right? Or tax breaks, fuel subsidies. Fuel subsidies often result in heavy overuse of water for agriculture. You make it too cheap and people are going to seriously overexploit the water resources and cause huge problems. So the problem with subsidies, though, is that once they're established, you have these interest groups that have a huge vested interest in maintaining them. So it's very hard to actually eliminate subsidies. So what we like to talk about greening subsidies or realigning them so that they can improve the outcome without forcing people to give up the social benefits. So there's no silver bullet here, and a lot of the activities that everyone talked about today are essential to put together a portfolio of solutions. I just wanted to give some examples of different tools that take a different approach, and you can find a lot of these tools on the BIOFIN catalog, and we have, we're all in this together, so we got to collaborate. That's what this is about. At these different sites, conservationfinancealliance.org, there's a lot of information. Also, biodiversityfinance.org, there's a catalog of over 150 different tools that provide a short introduction to them. And thank you all. Oops,